We are going live, folks. We're going live. Going live.
Ooh, the echo.
What's up?
Sound. Hey guys. Hope all is well. Hope all is well. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect. Hey guys, welcome back to Test Normal. This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
And this is a podcast where we like to talk about anything and everything we want to and have an open discussion about crazy stuff, man.
Yep. Crazy stuff. Speaking of the last week.
Oh, yeah, seriously. The last week, the last year, it's just a perfect crescendo to the last year, I would say.
Yeah, I think 2020 just said, they were like, we did it, we win. And 21 said, hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
For sure. But this is a unique week because not only did we have a, historic event that took place at the Capitol this year.
This year.
It
was this year.
But there's still a lot of contention surrounding it, and there's a lot of controversy and hurt on both sides. But we have a unique kind of perspective because last week, or not, was it last week when we were on? I think we might have. I don't think we skipped a week, but last time we were on, we talked about how Jordan was going to actually go there and actually kind of witness what was happening, so that way we had somebody on the ground kind of seeing what was taking place, so we weren't necessarily relying on external media.
Right.
And we really did want to stream something live so people could see the event.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it was just overwhelming.
It was nuts.
Towers, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the picture now of the crowd. It was, I don't think people, because they did not broadcast this at all. But I'm gonna bring up, which one is it? This one. Here is a picture, and I'll go full screen here of. And this is not everyone that's there. And if you want to, I could point to where I was I was like right here.
So you didn't take this picture?
I did not. This was actually posted by Dan Scavino, which is the White House Chief of Staff currently. But if you look to the left, the people went beyond those trees, and they went beyond the trees on the right as well. And where he is actually up on a scissor lift, because I watched him take it. He's up on a scissor lift, and below him and actually behind him is the Ellipse Park, which is the park right in front of the White House. And there's more people there. So there's more people behind him, and then there's all these people. And so
it was a pretty heavy show.
Yeah, I mean, if I was guessing, I would say it was at least 100,000, if not double that.
Oh, really? Do you know how many people were reported to have shown up for that? Or
I don't.
Does anybody out there know?
They say that between the 2 days, so because I was there on Wednesday and through to, on Tuesday through to a Wednesday, and it was, they say like over 1 million people came in and out of the city. That's definitely not 1 million people right there. But I will say that a lot of people aren't even in that picture that were there. I think that's some of the confusion that's gone on, but I'll get to that in a bit. I'll just say, like, when we started this off, it wasn't like just to like kind of give a disclaimer, because I know that there's some people that don't agree with Trump, don't like him, whatever. You're completely free to think what you want. But Curtis is not quite focused on his camera. That's because his camera is not as good as mine. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a little cheap camera. Sorry, guys. Man, I knew it. I knew that was going to be a good thing.
But when I went with a friend, Luke, he's been on our podcast before, and we both just wanted to go. Like, for me, it was a big deal because I've seen some things that are. I mean, obviously, I've been fairly open about like what I've seen and the information that I found, and if you don't think that there's information there, that's fine as well. But that this election was definitely didn't follow the law at the very best, and at the very worst was meddled with someone that shouldn't have. And I wanted to go just to see. Number one, I was curious. Number two, I really have always wanted to go to DC and see it, and I'm glad that I did, and I don't regret it. I've had a lot of people text me and say, "How you doing?" And I think they're, I don't know if deep down, if I'm just reading into it, they're saying like because Trump didn't win. I that wasn't ever my intention in going, was to somehow win it back, and I just wanted to go and represent my country. I've done it before and I thought it would be a fun trip. And I wanted, like you said, I wanted to see with my own eyes what was there because there's been a lot of misinformation on both sides. And I can say honestly, there are few independent people that I've seen and read that have been honest about what happened, but I have not seen a single mainstream media talk about it in the way that I saw it. Like, at least with my eyes, what I could see. And to also put a disclaimer out there because there's been a lot of people who have been like turning in friends and turning in people that they know and whatnot. I've seen posts on Twitter that are just awful. Like, whatever you think about it, they're just like, well, I had a family member that was there. I don't know if they went in, but I turned them into the FBI. Like, I will say I did not go into the Capitol. I did not trespass. I stood and was wanting to be a peaceful observer, and I was, but what I saw was awful. I mean, I say that now with my perspective, but and maybe there was something else going on. I don't know, but I know that there's been a lot said that like the president riled people up. I'd be the first to say his speech was kind of boring. If it was anything, it was kind of lulling people quieter. um, and it was cool to see a president live. I've never seen that before. Um, and but I mean, he didn't ever say I don't know how many times he said peacefully, but it was quite a bit. Like he didn't want people to go down and do what was done at all. At least that was my take. I didn't feel like, oh, let's go storm the Capitol now with the president. Like that wasn't what I thought at all. In fact, I thought I need to go pee, and I went pee, and then we began to walk down there. And if people don't know, like to walk down um, to the Capitol from where that's at, I'll bring that picture back up again. But it's not. Or actually, I could bring up a picture of mine to show people. But it's it's not it's not close. It's at least a 15-minute walk from where Trump was speaking to get down to the actual Capitol. I'm trying to find a picture um, from that spot, but this is probably this isn't even half. This is more than halfway, but I'll show it anyway. This is this is from probably a quarter of the way left to the Capitol, maybe half, maybe third. It's a long ways. I mean, that looks close, but it's kind of like when you hike a mountain, which you and I have done in the last last few months.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it looks really close, and the closer you get, the further it feels away. That's kind of what this place felt like. I mean, it's enormous, and
Isn't there a pond
there is. So if you
on?
look right here, if you
Yeah.
look right in the center, I could put it to full. Um, there's a horse right here, and I think that's the Truman or something, or Grant, maybe Grant. There's a pond in front of that as well that you have to get around. So I would say, like, rough estimate that if you were to there's probably over 10,000 people down there already before the president even ended. And he went long. I mean, he's known for it, just like every other leader in the world. He was 15, 16, 17 minutes over his time. And it was, basically a comms blackout for most people, not knowing what they got. And what I heard going through the crowd was, um, that Pence just screwed over the president. Like that's literally, and people were like, Pence did it. Pence didn't do it. Pence is what, and it was just like, what is going on? Like, I don't, and
So when
so
you said, Jordan,
go
that
ahead.
when you were there, you said, a lot of what you saw was awful. What was the awful things that you had witnessed?
Well, so that's what I was about to speak to is getting down there, like probably about, I don't know, a quarter of the way there, I started hearing explosions. I was like, oh, that's not, I mean, it's like, I've heard explosions before. I've had, dummy grenades dropped around me and had 50 cal shot over my head, stuff like that. And it was like, this isn't something you hear in a city. It's not like a distant firework or something like that. It was like, and I look up and there's like smoke coming from the steps of the Capitol. I was like, this is. I looked at Luke and I was like, what are we getting ourselves into? Like, what is going on right now? And as we just kind of started taking pictures and filming, and then we found out, we're like, why is nobody going through? Like, oh, there's a lake here. We hadn't been to that part yet. We walked up and around behind it the day before. And now, mind you, the day we got there, which was, or the first day that we went into DC to kind of check things out, was Tuesday. There was National Guard everywhere. Like, they had streets blocked, stuff like that. And that day, the day when most of the people were there, they were gone. Like, just missing from the city. And the for all the people that were going to be there, there was like plastic fences, like snow fences, like around the entire Capitol. Like, you could just walk through them. And then at the front of the Capitol was just like, I call them like bike rack fences. They're those pieces of fence that kind of latch together. And I'm sure people have seen them in the videos, but like, you could just step over them. It wasn't like a big deal. And I didn't want to, but people just started pushing against them. Apparently, before we even got there, there was people already pushed up onto the Capitol lawn where they weren't supposed to be, up in the scaffolding, up and climbing up the scaffolding where the seating was for the inauguration that's been set up. It's like, and there's just pepper, like there's like they look like a paintball gun, but they shoot pepper balls, and you can hear them going off, pop, 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 and then just concussion grenades, flashbangs, and tear gas grenades, just everywhere. And we stood for so long watching, like, that was the kind of the part that was just like, what am I watching? I stood for so long that my legs fell asleep, and was just like in awe of witnessing what was happening. Um, and that's when we heard that someone had been shot. They said that people got escorted out. There was nothing, unless there's like special tunnels out of there or whatever. No one left. No one left that building. So
What do you mean when you say no one left? What are you saying?
I'm saying, like, they said that they escorted out or evacuated the people out of it.
Are you
Um,
saying the senators and
mhm.
the House members
Yeah, and
were
maybe there's
were
tunnels under there or whatever.
yeah.
But I mean, they came back pretty dang fast. Um,
Hmm.
I think that they were in somewhere underground in there.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I listened to a NPR episode talking about one of the media members that were
mhm.
with the people, the congressmen and women, and it talked about how they were escorted with them to an undisclosed, basically underground kind of location
Yeah,
for their safety. Um, so that was something that was, yeah, they didn't usher them out of the grounds, I guess I would say.
yeah.
So that makes sense why they came back so
When
quick.
it seemed to calm down a little bit, we actually talked to a kid on the ground. He's probably like 14, and we're like, hey, he's kind of coming back from that direction, just across the street. He wasn't even near where the gates were. And he's like, oh yeah, I went inside. We're like, really? What's it like? He goes, oh, I might go back. It's pretty open now. They're just letting people in. And I was like, okay, like, I still, at that point, I was like, I don't feel this isn't right. Like, I don't know. I don't know what those people went through or whatnot, but he told us, he said, we asked him, we're like, well, what happened? Like, how did you get in? Like, what did you do? Did you have to break anything or whatever? And he said, well, we were at that door, and he pointed up at the door at the center of the Capitol and said, no, I just heard someone say push, and we pushed, and we were in.
Mm, interesting.
We're
Interesting.
like,
Yeah. So I heard actually a really interesting um, release because there was questions pertaining to why there was so little security surrounding the Capitol
mm-hmm.
that day,
Yeah,
and
there was
a
almost
lot
none.
of
There
you
was way more
a
the day
lot of you
before.
out there might have heard about this already, but one of the reasons was this past summer during the Black Lives Matter protests and other protests, in particular social protests. Um, there was a significant amount of federal agents that had been basically guarding and manning the Congress, the facilities there,
Mm,
and the Capitol building. And at that time, a lot of the city members, leaders, uh, the head of the police in Washington D.C., the chief, they had decided that the amount of federal enforcement during those protests put off a negative message
Mm,
and had a negative impact on the protests. So they decided that we don't want the federal government involved in protecting the Capitol building during this protest. We want to be the ones manning it. So they decided that it was essentially just local police that were responsible for manning the Capitol.
yeah.
And so you saw a much smaller number and less aggressive force than you probably would see with more better prepared and staffed federal agents. Um, and so that was a component. There's a lot of components to this whole thing, but that was a component to why there was less security at the Capitol building that day too.
Mm. Yeah, I don't yeah, I can't speak to any of that. I can just say there's a ton now and there was a lot more the day before. So that's like, I mean, a
Ooh,
lot
that's
more.
interesting.
So it, and then some of the videos that I've seen, like that, like I got some videos from people that were there that sent them to me, and I've seen some sense from the back, and it's like a lot of the Capitol Police are just standing there, or a lot of them are just letting him in. And there was even one where guy was waving him in, like they open the gate and he's
So
like,
I saw that video.
mm-hmm,
I saw that video, but then I saw another video,
mm-hmm.
and you maybe you saw the other one then too. There's another video where he was waving towards other law enforcement officers, like past, like saying "come, come, come."
I've seen it
So there was
from
one.
two different angles, and the other angle was from across the yard, like to the south of him, and they're literally just standing there, like
Yeah.
beside the doors. So it's like, I get it. Like maybe they were told to stand down, but it's a little bit weird. And yeah, it's just I've seen pictures of people inside that are getting like selfies with the guard, and that look like for the most part people stayed within the ropes. Like that's really weird that people stayed within the rope confines inside. And I was watching a video today from, actually, so it's been around like that. There's this guy John Sullivan is, with Antifa and all that kind of stuff, and I don't think he is. I think he's
Are you talking
just,
about the Tumnus?
no, no, not Mr. Tumnus. This is a guy that was seen in Colorado with BLM and with Antifa and stuff. And my kids are just going crazy upstairs. Haley needs to make them be quiet.
Okay, I can't. We
Um,
haven't heard him.
okay, good. Um, I'm just reading the comments there from Tara. Anyway, so the video that he was showing was uncut all the way from the front where I was, all the way in, and then all the way showing the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. And there's a guy that shows up about like 32 minutes into his video that comes from behind the police line. So like they're not allowed to get past him, and this dude shows up and he's acting really weird, like stoned, drunk, something. And he starts shouting
From
stuff
the
up.
Capitol. He's
Yeah,
coming from the Capitol building
no, no,
down.
no. So they're already inside, and there's a line of police keeping them from going down a corridor. And he
Oh,
shows
okay.
up from behind that line of police, and they don't move or bat an eye. He just walks up behind them and starts shouting with everyone else and gets in the cops' faces. And he's like, "We got to get it. You know where Jeffrey Epstein is?" And he starts yelling all this stupid, weird stuff and like acting really strange. And then the cops just part ways, and he takes them down the hallway and into the corridor where Ashley Babbitt was shot. He talks to the police. He shows back up again at the front of the line, talks to the police. They part away from those doors where she was shot, and then he pulls out a Kevlar helmet, like a black one the police have, and starts bashing in the windows, and then steps back, and she steps into the window and gets shot. And then if you watch the video, I mean, it's all uncut. It's not edited, no nothing. The cameraman turns to the side. He walks past the SWAT teams and the police downstairs where no one else is being allowed, talks to the police, and then disappears. Like, super strange. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of weird stuff going on that day. Like
right, but like
there's
why
been
he came,
rumors
it
about.
was just weird that he came from behind the police lines and then disappeared behind the police lines, and nobody questioned him. No one else is allowed to go down there, and he
Well,
walked
I
right past
imagine
him.
there's probably undercover people in that
Well,
Capitol
but it
building
was weird
too.
because he was like inciting people. So if he was undercover, he was making it worse. He wasn't like trying to calm anyone
Maybe
down.
was he inciting people or
Yeah, he
was
was
he like?
bashing windows, screaming and telling him, "We got to get in there. We got to get in there." And like,
But he's in there already.
yeah, but he came from behind the police lines. I'll post a link so people can watch it. I
Yeah,
will
post the
say what
links. Post
I
the
will
links so
say
people
with
can
a
kind of.
I will say with a disclaimer on it that it does show her getting shot, and it is not. It's not something that you probably want to see, but it's about 32 minutes into the video. You can see him come out from behind police lines, and then right before she gets shot, you can see him talk to the police. And if you fast forward past her getting shot, he walks into the group of the police, talks to them, and then continues on down the secure stairwell, like past them.
All that to be said, I would not be surprised if the police had a overwhelming amount of things on their mind at that time, and they probably weren't the best judge of who is appropriate to come into the Capitol or not.
Oh no, I'm completely sure. I don't doubt that at all. In fact, at that point, there was like 60-year-old women just walking in with flags and stuff. A lot
Right.
of people commented and said they thought it was open because up above the gates were just gone. Like we walked down
Had they like
closer.
been like like damaged?
No, they just moved them and piled them up.
Oh, they
So
moved
like
them and piled the
so
gates
like
up. Okay, the
we
bike
went to
gates.
walk closer just to talk to people, and I
Right.
looked down and didn't realize when I crossed onto the Capitol lawn. Like
So
and so I was like, I
that's
don't think we're
interesting.
supposed to be here. And so I backed up.
Here's
But
the thing that
it,
I'm wanted to acknowledge as well. Like I don't agree with the. I think there was a lot of laws broken that should not have been broken, and I think there was the. I don't agree with the riot that took place at all. However, I do want to give credit to the idea, and this is just from my personality. When something exciting is going on, I tend to be like a fly to a bright light. And if something exciting is going on, such as maybe even those people that weren't necessarily part of the protest or part of like intentionally causing a riot,
hmm
some of those people might have been excited and be like, something crazy is going on. All these
that's
people are rushing in there.
that is
I want
totally
to go
what
see
was
what's
happening.
happening right now.
There's that's
I want to be a part of this because I want to see,
it's a
And
hundred
so
percent, 100% what was happening.
a
And
lot of people were doing that, I
yeah,
think. But I
oh,
think there were,
very much so.
I think it's silly to ignore the fact that people were, you know, forcefully fighting the police that were telling them, no, you're not allowed to come in here. There's
Yeah,
obvious video of that.
fortunately, like there's quite a few people that actually stopped and helped them, and
Mm.
they just wanted in. Right or wrong, whether or not they should have been in there or whatnot. Like, I don't think they should have been. That's just me. So I'm gonna pull this up. My dad just emailed me the map of the mall, um, so people can kind of see what we're talking about. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit. So here's where we were. This is where the speech was in this ellipse area in the White House, like right outside the White House, and then you can see how far it is to walk down to the Capitol.
That's so funny. So okay, wait. Do you scroll a little bit to the left? There's a thing that says the mall right there,
Yeah,
the grounds. I every time someone referenced the mall, I literally thought, oh, there's like a national mall.
yeah. I
Like
wish.
it's like a federal
No,
mall. Like
no,
that's how
and it's. I
terrible
mean,
I am with
this is a
history.
huge. Like you can see the city blocks here. Like here's a big block, and then another block, and normal block, and a normal block, and that's just one section. And then there's a whole other section, and there's this reflecting pool, and then so where the people were getting really easily was on this back side where the question mark is at. That's where a lot of people were just walking in. They thought it was open. Where we were watching was right here up front, and there's a whole bunch of like scaffolding and steps and seating and everything right out front.
Did you walk by, or Did you during that day? Did you walk by the White House?
Yeah, you can't get close to it. Like,
Oh, you can't. So they protected the White House way better than
it's
they did the
been like that
Capitol
for a
building.
while. We actually talked to one of the Secret Service guys, and he said, "Yeah, you haven't been able to get up here for a while. It's been, I think, someone tried to jump the fence and run at it or whatever."
So you're like what, a couple
Um,
blocks away
it's
from the
it's.
White House?
I'll see if I can find the picture that's like the closest that we could get to it. It's ridiculous. It's like, oh, okay, well that's
Well, pull up
disappointing.
the map. Pull up the map so we can see approximately how far you could.
Oh, well, it doesn't show where it's blocked. Here, I'll show you. No, not that. I need that. Um, yeah, if you look, this park is huge. Like this
Okay.
ellipse park,
Like, gotcha.
giant. Like, and there's a wall right here.
Oh, okay. So
And
you can't
so,
even
and
get
it's
onto the road.
tall, and then
Okay.
this road is blocked off, so like you can't get up here, this road's all blocked off, you can't get,
Oh,
it's blocked off way like a block or two up there, you can't get
oh, geez.
anywhere near it, and it's like it's a tall wall, like there's no like getting near it. I'll see if I can find it. It's a pretty depressing.
Well, Trump's good at building those walls.
Yeah, it's true, it's true. um anyway, I mean, it was a, as far as like things go, like I'm glad I went. It was, it's kind of sad to see people act that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see
Well,
if like, yeah, I don't know. I
so
understand.
that
I think what's,
this
I think what it was, because I watched, and I'll post a video of this. There's a kid that really summed it up well, and it's whether you agree with, if your politics lean on the right, the left, whatever, upside down, it doesn't matter. What he was saying was, is you have a giant group of people who feel unheard and feel like they didn't get their day in court and that the evidence wasn't looked at. And so when people say like, all these court cases were thrown out, they said they have no evidence. That never happened. And that's what he's saying, is like, and he's saying like all these people just wanted them to say like, we looked at it and it's not real. And they feel like they've been, as everyone else has been thrown out of the world disenfranchised, they feel like they've been disenfranchised. And so they feel like they have no choice. And I didn't feel like that. But there were a handful of people, a very small fraction of the people that were there, that felt like that was enough, that they needed to make their voice heard by walking into the place that they shouldn't have been.
so and with that, I think that's a good transition to kind of get on the subject as far as, people steadfastly it seems as though people often steadfastly believe rumors about another group, but they're quick to recognize the inaccurate rumors about their own group or about their own identity. And when we see like the protests that took place, and this is just something that I've witnessed from people that I encounter, there's far less critique about this protest and in fact more support as far as the riots, such as this kid saying, people just wanted their voice to be heard. And from whatever you would say, maybe the conservative side or not, but I think that's a good time to reflect on. People are wanting their voices to be heard right now because they feel
Mm-hmm.
like there was a political injustice that took place, maybe a political or a constitutional injustice that took place. But I think that's a really good way for people to emphasize, to not emphasize, to be able to imp, empathize, empathy, to have empathy for people that feel that same way on the other side with social injustices, such as maybe even people within the Black Lives Matter movement that feel like their own personal privileges as a black person or a Caucasian or a Hispanic, they have had injustices, and that's why they feel like their voices haven't been heard, and they're to the point of causing physical violence and burning down buildings or crashing into the Capitol. Um, so I think that there is a lesson to be learned that no matter what side you're on, I do not believe there is a benefit to showing a violent action on your own nation. And violence begets violence. And ultimately, you're only going to cause more ammo for your opposing side, I guess I would say,
Right.
to cause more of a violent reaction. So that's for both sides to be able to hopefully relate to the other side better.
Yeah. I think too, we need to like recognize we had the other side, not really the other side, but like another group of people that have basically been given a free pass in a lot of cities to just absolutely destroy things. And that's, that's going on. It's still going on right now. And that's not right either.
And that's exactly what I just said. Both sides, violence is not the solution and not the answer. Martin Luther King Jr. had a great, approach to that too. It was a non-violent protest and non-violent methods to solving social concerns and injustices.
Right.
And that's that. I've seen it as far as my short lifespan goes, that every single person is responsible for themselves, but also if you're in the country you live in, I think you should hold a responsibility to wanting to protect those around you, and violence won't solve that issue.
So Tara was asking. She said maybe there was other people grouping up other places. I'm just going to show. This is. She's saying everything stopped. I'm still seeing it live.
Okay, you show that real quick. I'm gonna be super quick to the bathroom.
Okay.
Super quick, guys.
I'll just show this picture real quick to show like the where it was at the point that we got there. You can see. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Um, by the time I was done, well, by the time we kind of pulled up and got closer, when we got there, this was the state of everything. And you've got some, this is Capitol Police still on these ledges, but there's now people starting to come in. Hopefully Tara got it back, because I think it's still there. Yeah, it's still live. Maybe turn your app off and on if you can hear me. And then I'll find a spot where, kind of where it was when we got a little bit further. Look how fast you are, dude.
All right, I'm back.
Good
Sorry, guys.
prostate. Whew. I just showed like where it was when we got there, and I'm gonna show like the last picture I had when we got finished. Oh, this is someone else's picture. I had some pictures from a guy actually that was at the airport. Or this kind of shows if you look here. It shows, look at how they folded the fences up. Like pushed them to the sides, and you couldn't tell where they were later on. I don't know if you can see that, Curtis.
Yeah, on the bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So this kind of brings us to a good transition as far as conversation goes, and I think people might be interested in this as well. After this protest slash riot that took place, there
I'm gonna put a picture up
was
while you're talking. This is
yeah
this picture, just to give everyone an idea. This is kind of what it was by the end. Like when we got there was no one up there. And then
that's a
towards the
perfect
end,
picture.
this is someone else's picture. It's a guy I met in the airport.
Oh,
He sent it to me.
uh,
But you can see all these people, like they're not supposed to be up here. They got into the stands, like the people that didn't go inside got into the stands and just started singing.
and this is where the inauguration takes place,
Yes.
right?
They got up in there. They were like, you can see the Capitol Police. They're the ones in vests and stuff, just peacefully standing around them.
So
And
this
and
on the other side of the building.
this is the side we were on.
Yeah, right.
And they're just singing. They were singing like "God Bless America" and some other song. It was the weirdest, surreal thing
That's such
to
a
watch.
dichotomy. While on another doorway, someone's getting shot or
Well,
someone's getting
that
crushed or
was
something
further
like that.
in next to the chambers.
Yeah.
Uh, That's a
Um.
whole other conversation that I don't know that I would ever feel comfortable talking about live. I would anyone that joins here is more than welcome to private message me, and I would video chat or have coffee with you or whatever, and talk about my thoughts on that. But I don't really want to broadcast those thoughts.
Yeah. Um. I think that. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm happy to say I don't agree with it, and I think it was not a good idea, and I think
No,
it was.
I'm not.
I think it's a terrible thing
I
to.
don't think she should have been shot, but I'm saying like the details of it and everything. Like
Oh, the details as
yeah,
far as like the
yeah,
gore and
like
stuff. Yeah. Sure.
it shouldn't have been deadly force. That no one. I mean, and calling the other thing I will say is calling this an insurrection. It would be literally the first insurrection in human history where it was an unarmed mob that did it, and there
No, I
wasn't.
think it's called a riot,
Yeah,
and I think that
it literally was a rally that turned riot because a few people incited people
but also,
because people were powder keg. They were ready. They were angry already, and they were ready to
but I don't think
blow. And it didn't
I
take
whether
much. It,
whether it was deadly force or not, that's I think actually because it from what I had been understood, it was actually rubber bullets that impacted her, and I don't think that it's. I think that you have to take self responsibility, and in that situation, she should not have been trying to break into the
I
Capitol,
don't think she
anyways.
should have either. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying like I wouldn't have pulled the trigger if it were me. And knowing like going and looking at their
And if you have a whole horde of an, I don't know if that's true, dude. I'm not saying it's not true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you're in that situation and you have a horde of people breaking into your whatever, you're responsible to guard the lives of the people
Yeah.
behind you, and you have a horde of angry people screaming and breaking in. I don't think. I think
Yeah,
it's hard to
the
say
the
unless you're in that
difference is
situation.
like is sitting like if for me to have taken that shot, say it was me in that person's shoes, and I'm not judging them. I'm just saying I don't think it was a wise idea. Like they were there, I was not. But they had to shoot in the direction of three other officers. Like there was three other officers standing right behind her and they were aiming in that direction. And looking at it, there's no chance that was a rubber bullet. No chance.
Well, I guess I'm sure there'll be or maybe there already has been an autopsy for absolute confirmation on that.
Turn out
So
she died of
I think it's
COVID.
that's
Sorry, too soon. Like,
of course you had to say that. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, it was
Um,
pre-existing conditions. Like,
but that leads us to the transition of a really kind of contentious issue that Jordan and I previously in this week discussed, and I'd like to hear if you guys have any input on this as well. Um, it's it's an interesting situation as far as uh, private businesses and moderation or moderating their uh, users.
yeah,
Um, and as we all have seen, the media has just been blowing up lately with Trump being banned from Twitter, Facebook, I
there's
Instagram,
12
and
different companies all at once.
all media. I don't know what all the medias are, but there's a lot of different like media platforms.
Yeah,
Um, and the uh, kind of the discussion that surrounds that is there was also a larger app called Parler that a lot of people that would identify as conservative used, and a lot of people that saw it as a free speech platform used. And Parler was recently suspended from Amazon and kicked off of Google's app platforms, and then Amazon and iTunes.
right.
And then Amazon essentially is kind of a little bit different than the apps because Parler could be accessed through, parler.com or whatever, the website. But Parler now has to
No, no,
find.
no, no. I think you're misunderstanding that.
See, I think Parler had a website.
They do. So
Right.
Amazon is Amazon Web Services. It's not just
Yes.
Amazon. So it's not the Amazon store. It's not the App
No, no, no.
Store.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So Amazon Web Services is a separate service that a lot of companies use and rely on. Like when it went down a few
Oh,
weeks
yes,
ago,
yes.
it's terrible. Like it wipes out so many different companies use them. And so Amazon said, "We're going to cut your service. It's going to be tonight at midnight." So Sunday,
Right. So they're like
December
their
or
data,
January
their
10th.
storage, all of their
They
infrastructure was
pay for upkeep and server usage in their farms.
server usage.
Yep.
Right. But Parler, like their website, essentially
That's hosted there.
hosted on Amazon,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So they were using Amazon, and Amazon said, we're going to suspend you. So
Mm-hmm.
Parler has to find an alternative server provider, which they can. There are other server providers out there. And
It's an interesting dichotomy now because they're saying that they're struggling to find anyone because Apple and Google have removed them and Amazon has said that they're not approved. They're having a hard
Mhm.
time finding anyone that will take their money.
See, that's interesting because the actual
I was reading it from their founder today in an article that they had. Like they're struggling to do it.
that's interesting because he made a post.
He did last
Maybe it
night,
was
but I was
last
but I
night
was
saying
but I
there's a
was
lot of
reading an
people
article
wanting.
later today, and who knows? Maybe they're making it up to be more. I'm just saying like it. There he claimed in the article that he was interviewed in that they were struggling because these companies had basically blackballed them, and so it. I understand when people are like, "Hey, if you don't like our service, go build another one." But I will say that President Trump tried to block people on Twitter and have them removed from Twitter, and a court ruled on that. So this was in 2019. The Third Circuit Court ruling said that when a public official speaks in a public space like Twitter or Facebook, that they have now made it a public forum and they ruled it as First Amendment law. So it's already been ruled on. And they said that because it's a public official, when they make that type of announcement or conversation in a public space, even though it's a private entity, it's just like if they went to, Costco or whatever. Like it just, they can't, what they're doing is they're not infringing upon just that person. They're infringing upon the public space that was created. And so that's already been ruled on by a court. I understand, like I'm fully for, like just to be super clear, that getting rid of things that are violent or whatever should be removed, but they're not even using they're not even being the same to themselves. They've gone on a rampage of people who are basically conservative and not lining up with their political views have removed like over 80,000 in the last 48 hours. And
Are you so you're talking right now about Parler had removed
no,
posts?
that's
Is that what
just
you're
Twitter.
saying?
Parler had removed posts. They put out a public thing because they got blamed immediately for being the person that helped them incite violence on the Capitol. And they said,
Hmm.
absolutely not. That
Right.
goes against our policies. And
Said they
when
were the
when they're
platform for
reported,
that.
just like any other one, they remove them and they have proof of it. Like they keep the proof of the ones that they remove because they need to back it. They need to cover their own butt, because if they delete something and they aren't supposed to, they don't want to infringe on someone's rights and get called out for it. So if it's self-harm or inciting violence or um, I understand that, Jonathan, but when somebody comes and speaks there that's known and a public official, it's already been ruled on in court that it's a public space.
So Jono made a point, which is a point that I've made to Jordan several times,
Yeah.
as far as like private companies. I believe in a free market, in a um, capitalist society, a company should have the right to choose what services to whom they provide that service to, um, or what they allow
Yeah,
on
but
their
just
site
like a
to a degree.
store can't discriminate based on they have to be fair
Actually,
in that. Hang on,
that's
hang on,
that's
hang on. If you're not wearing shoes,
mhm,
then they kick you out. But if I'm not wearing shoes, they
mhm.
kick you out as well. They can't just
So
say
that's a
like,
really
well,
good
I don't like your shoes,
point.
so you leave. So,
So that's a good point. And there's I 100% agree with the concept. There is a lot of hypocrisy, I
mhm.
think, with certain acts of violence or inciting violence
Well,
that
then why didn't they
social
pull
media
AOC's
platforms
account? Why
allow.
didn't they pull why didn't they pull
Or
hers from
well,
for and
I
she
think that
actually did incite violence. You go look at her post, it said some of these groups the only answer is rioting.
so I think that that's a good example. I think a better example is the Iranian leader talking
Yeah.
for, the death to Americans, death to other people
The
outside of his
anti-Semitic comments that he makes,
religious
like,
beliefs. So
absolutely.
I think there's social media platforms that have a undeniable hypocrisy as far as their approach to, if it doesn't align with their political views, it's inciting violence. But if it does, then it's just free speech.
Right.
Um, so I admit to that fully.
Yeah. And I
Um,
mean, if you go look,
however,
you can find history of them organizing to go do riots in Portland, for example, using Twitter.
so let's set the precedence. I do agree that I see the hypocrisy in those platforms. Okay,
Right.
but at the same time, I do think that in a free market, someone should have the choice whether they do or do not allow certain actions to take place on their platforms or in their homes or in their stores or in those whatever setting that is. Um, but and I've already talked about this as well in the past. The only way to beat bad speech
Mm-hmm.
is with better speech,
Yes.
you know? And if you are
Joe
wanting
Rogan,
to solve that
TM.
hashtag JRE team, and if you want to have a better platform, make a better platform
Yeah.
that you then like.
Well, and
Essentially, the
that's the
answer
thing
is
is that like
a free
Parler
market will
did.
flow to where
Parler made
it's the
one, and
best.
now there's 3 companies all teaming up within 48 hours getting rid of them because
Yeah,
they're
and
what?
that's well, and if that's the case, then that shows that majority, because that shows that the majority of the people that use those platforms and or the majority of the people that own those companies
Mm-hmm.
don't desire that, and that's their platform's choice. But if
I
there's a
think that
majority
at one,
within
but
your
there
platform,
are antitrust laws. Like they cannot collude together to take out one person. That is illegal.
Um,
Like they cannot work. They
so
cannot
are you saying like monopolies? Is that what you're talking about?
if they're found to be working together to take someone out like that, especially because
Yeah.
it can be made an argument that they are a competitor, it's they can't do that.
Well, but that's the thing.
That's
Like
not free
within a
market anymore.
free market is not supposed to be fair.
But
Like it
that's
doesn't
not but
have to be
that's not a
fair.
free market
Life isn't
anymore.
fair.
But that's not a free market
Like
anymore.
a capitalist society is actually a great example of not being fair, right?
Right, but
If you look
I'm
at
saying if two other companies work together, because we had 12 companies in 48 hours that laid out a plan that they all did the same thing. If they're all
that's funny. I'm reading our threads here real quick.
yeah,
Everybody's like saying the same things we're saying.
I know. If they're colluding together, that's illegal. It's like that's what Facebook is being sued by some states for right now is antitrust. It's not. It's
Well,
there's monopoly laws and then there's antitrust laws. If they're
if
colluding to
there's laws being broken,
yeah, if they're colluding
yeah.
together,
If there's
it's
laws
not
being
legal.
broken, then I think those need to be corrected. For sure. Yeah. If there's illegal actions taking place by those businesses
Right.
against other
But
businesses,
then you could
then that
make
should be corrected.
if it's Parler if or say let's just take Amazon Web Services for a second. They host illegal content already.
Amazon hosts illegal content.
For
I imagine
sure.
probably most servers have illegal content on there that
Right,
they
but
don't
I'm
even
saying
know
like
about.
they're but no, I'm talking like websites that host like things that have been trying to be attacked for a while. Like things that are not safe for kids and stuff like that. Like that aren't legal images have been found on there and they don't do anything about it.
I think that if they I see that's something that I hear people say. However, I would wager that if someone within Amazon who is responsible for taking down illegal content
Mm-hmm.
knows about it, I would wager that it's taken down.
Except that there's cases out there.
Well, and I think if those cases get brought to light, I think they would get taken
They've
down.
been argued for a long time. That's what people are saying right now. They're like, this has
Well,
been in
I
the
think that
light.
would be really good. I think
This
if
has
you
been in the
have
light.
links to proving that, because I hear
Yeah,
people
the
say
problem
that,
is it's like
but I don't see
websites
links
that I'm
proving
not going to
that.
put links up to, like
No, no,
Pornhub
no.
and stuff like that.
You don't
Like
have to
it's
put links to the actual site, but you
there's
can put
websites
links
that have
to.
been attacked for a long time that use Amazon Web Services that Amazon has known about for well over a year, and they haven't done
Mhm.
anything to remove them. And then
I think that's
all of a sudden, three companies get together and remove one company. That's not them saying they said build your own, and so they did, and then when they did, they said sorry, we don't like it. It's Twitter's losing too many people, and they cancel them.
I think what your first statement, as far as those specific sites and those specific incidences, I think that that would be uh, carry more credit if we have actual proof of it, you know. And so I'm not saying it's not true, but I would say that I would need to see that to believe it,
Right.
and
I'm
not necessarily the actual
I'm just
sites.
saying
That's
like
I
the
hear
article,
that, but I don't
but I'm
know if
saying like
that's
there's
true.
multiple articles and cases out there. You could go find them right now. I'm not going to pull them up right now. I'm not going to bring them up right now because it would just get into the weeds. But like I'm saying, they exist.
That's another thing, though. I feel like there's a lot of well, that's going to bring up a whole nother can of worms. Bring a whole new can of worms with the election. But there is actually a really cool thing that I saw you had posted a link to, um, which is referencing what I had said. You know, if you don't like what's going on, build something different, build something new.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and let me pull it up here real quick. Was it
Which one is it? The
the
Gab one?
Gab? Yes. So Gab, which was Gab was kicked off of wasn't Gab kicked off of Apple, Google, etc. as well?
I believe actually I don't know if they were.
Yeah.
I think that they thought they were going to be, but they started making their own servers.
Oh well, in this article from this year, it says that they were kicked off of Gab was then kicked off of Apple and Google at one point.
I pulled it up.
There you go. And is Fortnite still off of Google? Did they still kick Fortnite off
It's off of both.
or Apple?
Yeah, so what I would say to that is what Apple and Google, so Google less than Apple, because Google you can actually install a third party store. But if Apple's going to do this, this essentially means they're selling you a device that they get to choose what you can and can't use on it, which means we
Right.
would never know if they're just working with someone to keep the ones on there they like, or the ones that are willing to pay them more. Right. And
Yeah.
that's just from like me just guessing what could be going on behind the scenes. I'm not saying that is going on behind the scenes, but that
But
is
what I like about
that's the
Gab,
danger.
what is cool about Gab, um, and apparently Gab is coming out with their own phone.
Their own
So
phone.
yeah,
I think the real solution here is that Elon Musk needs to come out with a phone.
I think he would have a lot. Obviously, he has more infrastructure and capacity to do such a
And
thing.
it would
He's
probably,
wealthier than Jeff Bezos now.
it's true. Yeah.
Um, but Gab is coming out with their own phone, and I think that actually is going to be like a digital platform with it as well for uh,
It's funny. I posted that
apps and
article and
everything.
didn't even read that far in it.
Yeah, you did. I know. I saw that and I read it. I was like, dude, this is amazing. And you didn't read it.
Well,
Um,
I thought it was a different statement that he had made because he had a whole video statement because they got blamed right away. Gavin Parler got blamed right away for where the people formed and incited violence on the Capitol. He's like, absolutely did not
okay,
happen.
let me ask you this. Jono made a point, a statement saying he's like, just give us a new internet.
That doesn't, so the
Um,
internet's not, so John, just so you understand, the internet is not owned by any country or entity. They are allowed to be on it. If the council that runs the internet decided tomorrow to remove Google, it's done. Like that's how that works. As far
so
as I
there's
heard, as far as I
what is
heard,
the council?
there used to be, and I don't know if it's current now. I'm just going off based what I learned years ago, is that there's 10 people and they're from different countries. I think 5 of them are from here, but it's because the internet originated here. And to be quite honest, a lot of people that need to know what's going on are from here. Um, so it isn't a matter of a new internet. And that's the problem too, is that we're already becoming divided as a nation. I mean, if you want to look at
Mm-hmm.
something as proof that we're divided as a nation, it's what happened on the 6th. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have driven people so far apart from each other on both sides. Like I think there's people that have not been heard in the BLM and Antifa movement. There's people that have not been heard on the conservative side. There's people that have not been heard that maybe don't need to be heard. Like but we've driven such a rift between people that there is like you cannot there's no center. You're either
So
the people can try to live in the center, but you'll get more beat up there than you will if you're on the conservative or the
essentially,
left side.
as far as not having a new internet, but a person with enough wealth could host their own servers
Yes.
that then would be able to host their own websites that then would be able to potentially host their
Yes.
own
So the
data for your
the
own
issue
app
with that is
platform.
is that for a while we've been going a direction where it's like, oh, it's kind of like GoFundMe or whatever. Because everything runs in the cloud, they there are groups that have built these server farms that can do these heavy things and you can share them. And so everyone else does it. That's why I'm saying like anything that's illegal on the internet exists on these servers. For them to say that Parler is the one that's doing the worst is absolutely asinine
So
because
like Lime, not LimeWire, um, like if you want to go to the dark web
yeah,
or whatever, what's the server called? Or
Tor,
uh, Tor. Yeah, if you want to do Tor or something like that, all of that data is that all that data stored on such as like Amazon
it can be. So the only thing
is
that differentiates the dark web from the other web is that it's not aggregated. It's not indexed.
okay.
And
Okay,
so
right.
it's sitting out there. It might be on someone's server at their home and it may
Yes,
but
right.
more than likely it's not because they don't want it there. And so it could be sitting on an AWS server for sure. It could be sitting in the backs of Amazon.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the internet is this giant complex place. The only thing that is like when you go and type in google.com, it goes out and checks that address. It's like an address book. It flips through and it goes, okay, Google is this address, and then it sends you to that address. That's what made the internet user friendly, is that all of a sudden I didn't have to remember a bunch of numbers and code to get to a certain spot or dial a phone number or whatever. It's all
But to be
interconnected.
fair, for Amazon, when you're saying Amazon hosts illegal content,
Mm-hmm.
if it was something like Tor or something like one of those, you know, websites that would be more nefarious. It's possible that it could go onto the Amazon website and they wouldn't know it right away when that went on there.
Absolutely. Yes. But for them to blame Parler, and I can go find the exact same content they're blaming Parler of having on Twitter right now. That's not even close. They're just doing it. There's no other reason they're doing it but for money. Like,
Well, we are both in agreement as far as the hypocrisy, as far as banning certain platforms
right.
like that.
And that's where it's
That
like, well,
sure.
what laws do you do? Well, so like for instance, Gab and Parler have done what Twitter had said they were going to do a really long time ago, which is like you vote. Like it has like a jury that's elected to figure out if the content is okay or not, and they're like these independent people that vote on it. Like Twitter talked about that years ago, but now they're just like wiping everyone off the face of the earth. I'm like, what in the world? Like, what did Trump say that incited anyone? They literally took down his video that said, "Leave the city peacefully, go home and be safe." Like, why? That's that's insane.
I mean, there were examples of Are you talking about Parler specifically?
No, that was Twitter. Like Twitter
Twitter.
removed him,
Okay.
like removed that from his
Yeah.
account when they were like, "Please go on and tell people to leave." And it as soon as he
When
posted a
they took
video,
his whole account down.
no, they just removed that post at first. The video that said "Go home."
But then shortly after they
He's like,
took
"I
away
know
this
how you
whole account,
feel,
right?
and but you need to go home. This is not who we are."
So on both of those Twitter, Parler, there's undeniable evidence that there were things that people have done to incite violence, and that's acknowledged. Like I don't think you can
Who?
debate that
Who did?
on both websites, on
Oh
both
yeah, yeah,
sides.
yeah. Like it doesn't matter who it is. I'm sure that there is.
Like Lynn Wood, Trump's
Oh
attorney,
yeah.
or
Well, they
said
removed that, and
you
they
need to
should
go
have,
hang.
and that
Yeah,
was wrong. Like
yeah.
they removed it very quickly. In fact, I saw the alert for it, and it was gone already. Like they're not slow. And to say that they're not filtering their content, what they're not filtering is the things they don't like. They're like, well, I don't agree with that, or that's not true.
But again, that goes
That's
back to
not
the
a
free market,
policy. Like, yeah, it's not
where
it
I do think it's ability. Should be a freedom of a
right.
company
But
to make that
here's the
decision.
difference. So these websites sit under section 230, and we've talked about that 230 before. But as soon as you start meddling with the information that's out, as long as it's not illegal, like I fully like again, I will say like delete what's illegal. Like get rid of it. But if it doesn't break that, you are now implicit in becoming a media company because you're controlling the rhetoric that's coming out. And if because of that, I don't think you should have the protections of section 230. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure,
Why?
but
What how is that not
I think that if you're a media company in the same way as Fox, in the same way as CNN, you're
Mhm.
telling me that they don't regulate what they put out? Like
I'm s-
they
I'm
are
s- no, no,
highly
no, I'm saying
pick and choose.
no, I understand they do. They have laws, but section 230 exempts Twitter and Facebook from that. That exempts them from being complicit in something that you or I post. Unless it's like me killing someone or something.
Oh, right,
They need to
right.
get rid of that illegal content. That's something that they need to be.
That's saying that they don't have to get rid of. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they do. Like if it's illegal content, it should be removed. That's illegal
And
content.
that 230 rule
Yes.
makes them have to get rid of that content.
No, that 230 rule protects them from me saying something dumb that isn't illegal but maybe isn't true. So
Okay, so then
they're
that
not
would
publishing
protect
something
them. Okay, that
they're
protects
not
them.
publishing something false if I say, the sky is green. Like that they're not held liable for that. But a media company would be. And so they're protected from that. But I think as soon as they touch that, as soon as they flag it, delete it, or whatever, they've now become a media company because they're controlling the news.
I think everything though every company has a degree of media to them. Like it's an advertising, like what they want to represent, what they want to sell. So I mean, even if you,
Absolutely. But
yeah,
but even
all
like on
companies
YouTube, that
are a
used
form
to
of
be
media.
individual. Like if I flagged it that we're explicit, there are certain ads that won't pop up. So they already have things in place for that. Knowing that, oh well, then I'm not going to advertise baby wipes on an explicit podcast, or I'm not gonna advertise this conservative thing on there because they're not talking about things that they agree with. They're all those things are in place. It all comes down to, I mean, if you look at the lawyer that worked with Twitter to remove Trump, even though they've already gone through and there's case law saying that they can't do this. Um, it's like not even a U.S. citizen.
So I have had more political conversations this week, I feel like, than I've had in the past.
A billion
Even though we've
years.
talked about it every week,
Yeah.
on our podcast. I've
Well, it's
had
like what's
more.
happening. You send everyone home.
What's
That's another
happening
thing
is
is you
pretty.
sent all these people home and told them to stay home, and then they showed up at a Capitol like, well, finally something to do. What else
Well,
are they
that's
going to do? Let's
exactly
go
it.
take some
A
selfies
lot
with
of
a.
people
Let's go take some selfies with a statue.
are well, and then a lot of people are out of work right now, right? A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are like they're they're focusing on these things because they kind of don't have a lot else to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I mean, that's a generalized statement, but that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to give a little bit of a break from a little bit of the political talk tonight,
Well, so
and
hang
kind of
on just a sec. There's one other thing I'm.
after I'll let you say your other couple little things, but then I want to do a little bit
Yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
break for some other interesting
I'm
things.
just gonna say that in the show notes I'm gonna put up. There's a really good video, and I want you to watch it too and see what you think. There's like in the end she asks for money. Ignore that because she also says don't send me money if you don't want to. But Candace Owens puts up. She has like a short video where she explains how she got taken off of Facebook and the different companies that have now specifically come after her and the case that she's launching against them. Because just this week too, there's an organization that is by far not at all like radical or anything. It's just a guy who was very far left wing and realized he didn't like it and has a bunch of reasons why and had like a 500,000 person following in a group on Facebook. And he woke up, no warning, whole account deleted. Never was told that he needed to take anything down, no nothing, just woke up and it was gone. And he is now like having to build that from the ground up, like, and work through some cases with Facebook because he never got a warning at all. Never got flagged, no nothing, just gone. And I think what we're seeing is like these people, private company or not, they're just silencing voices they don't like to hear. And that's kind of what has gotten our nation to where we're at right now, is that people have a hard time with people that they don't agree with and they just want to shut them up. And
Well, that exactly. We saw this last summer too.
right.
We saw
And
that this
and
last summer
so
with the
that's
BLM
not
protests, and we saw that now.
if people hear anything from any of this, like, yeah, it's cool that I went to DC or anything, but I will tell you the thing that I learned the most is that if you shut people up, it doesn't make it better. And it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with them. Like, I, by all
And
means,
that violence is not a
stop them
solution.
through violence. Well, okay, so let's talk about that for just like 4 seconds. Violence is a terrible solution, and it should be the very last solution. War is an awful thing, but there are bad people in this world, and sometimes it has to happen, and that gets violent. And you can't tell me that like the response to us being attacked, or even when Lincoln started the war on slavery, like we had to use violence to get rid of that, and so it is justified at times. I don't think this was it. I'm not
I think.
arguing that, but saying that violence is never the answer
Well,
is
I think that it does not have to be the answer. And I
no.
think that
It should be the
a lot
last
of
answer.
times it's far too quickly sought after as a solution, and way too easily floated out there as a solution.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, like just like there's examples on both sides, but examples of people talking about, you need to make sure you bring your guns to the Capitol during this time.
Right.
You need to make sure, like there's things that are terribly under weighted as far as the repercussions of it. And violence is so easily avoided, and it can be avoided if you have a healthy, open discourse and situations where people are willing to avoid echo chambers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. If you
but
get stuck in an echo chamber, you're done.
well, it's easy to. It's
Mm-hmm.
really easy to, though. I think a lot of people in your city that you live in your town, in your workplace, it's so easily you don't even notice it. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, but it's very true. And I think a lot of people might not be willing to recognize it.
Yep.
Um, but so two other things real quick. Tulsi Gabbard, was on a podcast recently. I want to post a link to that you guys can watch. It was really interesting, and she had a really good prediction, several months before all this took place,
I like her.
about it. And she's a former Democratic senator or representative, House
I gotta be
representative.
honest. Everything I've read about her, I don't know how she's Democrat.
I love her, man. And then Dan Crenshaw has his own podcast, and he had a pretty good kind of statement pertaining to what happened, the riots at the White House, or not White House, sorry, the Capitol. And I would recommend people to listen to that. My brother-in-law actually recommended me listen to him, so shout out to Austin for that.
Austin.
And then, yeah, so some other interesting things, guys, that I wanted to bring up, non-political. Let's take a breath. No dramas.
I'm gonna
No drama
challenge.
dramas.
I'm gonna take this as my personal challenge to make them
Make it drama.
political.
I would, if you can make this political, then I give you some credit for it.
Okay, good.
Um,
Challenge accepted.
but this was actually a really cool study that recently came out, and it was a study done on bacteria, and it was specifically on non-photosynthetic bacteria, and it went into detail about how they studied the uh, circadian rhythm and biological clocks
Those are
of
hard words
bacteria.
next to each other.
They are hard next to each other. And they found out that these bacteria actually do align with the 24-hour kind of cycle that we typically have as on humans.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out that they respond to certain types of their metabolism increases at certain times, their mitochondria,
Mm-hmm.
and
Their Krebs
the
cycle.
bacteria themselves actually have a alteration in their health and their strength during these certain times. So they're starting to see this correlation as far as like, okay, if we can see bacteria are functioning and are weaker at this time and stronger at this time, maybe this will be a way that we can find in the future of fighting bacterial infections, perhaps. So like maybe instead of having to give somebody antibiotics twice a day, we can give them an antibiotic once a day at half the dose, and it will
that would be
kill that
interesting.
bacteria. It'll kill that bacterial pneumonia much quicker.
I'm laughing at Jono because he already beat me in this punch, and he said we can definitely make bacteria political. We've made a virus a political.
Oh yeah. For sure we can make those things political, but it's hard to make circadian rhythms of bacteria
Which,
political.
by the way, if people are wondering, that's why I'm here. Like, some people in my family have the COVID, and they're not dying, so they're okay.
The vid.
They're okay. The vid.
That's good. They're not.
It's because they're
That's
not
good they're
90
not.
and all have cancer and hearts that are exploding.
Yeah.
And
It's good that they're not, but definitely there are people that are.
all three of them.
Actually, and that's actually a good point.
This is me poking the bear.
I wanted to bring up the vaccine to people, specifically the Pfizer vaccine. Anybody out there that's interested? I don't think Jordan. I don't think you have COVID right now.
Pretty confident I don't.
Yeah.
If I don't,
but
I might get it. But my wife's convinced that I had it, and I just slept it off.
But I wanted to talk about the Pfizer vaccine, and it's an mRNA vaccine, which actually I have a really good article that goes into detail about the mRNA vaccines, and it's a really cool technology that they've used in a very safe way, I believe, for immunizing people. And they've already used mRNA vaccines for a while in different situations. But
for the Pfizer one, there's the other one that's like not used.
So there's Moderna,
yeah,
and then there's the one that they're using in Great Britain. I can't remember what that's called. But I got my first vaccine about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Oh yeah, this I was like trying to remember what the other thing was that you wanted to talk about.
No big deal. The first vaccine, no big deal.
You should turn your camera down just a little bit. Turn it like this. There, like now you're taller. Oh,
There you go.
there you go. So much better.
You waited till the end
No,
for me to
it
do
like
that.
moved. It like wasn't, or
Oh,
you
okay.
scooted down or something. I don't know what it was.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So the first vaccine, it just felt like kind of like a tetanus shot, or on the arm, it's just a little bit sore.
Tetanus shot's like
Um,
the worst shot.
Not anymore.
The last one I
So
got was
I got a pretty good sore arm, right?
okay.
Felt like I was kind of lifting a heavy weight on my arm.
So
And
like
then I
five,
waited.
10 pounds.
Yeah, probably like my max.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So like seven,
and
seven
then
pounds.
waited. I think it was close to 3 weeks. It was like 2.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Got my second shot. Worked that day. Felt good. But that night, by the end of the night, um, it's okay. But I had never felt a more like power punch to my arm
For the
than that
second
night,
one,
as from the second one, because I started to
was it
get
in the
the
same
immune
arm?
response. No, I did
No.
it in the opposite arm because I purposely was wondering that. I was like,
I,
did
I,
I do it in the
I
same arm?
was. That was a really good question, and I was waiting for you to say it. That's a really good question, but you did not.
That's a really good question. You didn't give me time.
You answered
Um,
before saying. Usually go really good question.
Really good question. But the next day or that night, I did get a little bit of shivers because I started having a really good immune response. Like my body started building antibodies
Mm-hmm.
for the actual mRNA vaccine. Um, and then I just felt groggy the next day. So my
Mm.
symptoms were mostly just the arm pain and a little bit of like the chills and fatigue. I didn't have any fevers. I didn't have any vomiting, diarrhea. But overall, it was um, a decent one. His signature line.
Yeah,
Okay,
your
simmer down,
wife.
Annie. Simmer down now, Annie.
uh,
Good question.
Careful, Annie. If you and I
Um,
team up, then he gets up angry.
you don't want to make me angry.
Yeah, now you need to scoot over. You're like halfway in the. There you go.
Sorry, I got a rolly chair here, guys,
Yeah,
and it
so
gets a
do
little
I, but
squirrely.
I don't do that.
I do it. I can't help it. The other thing I wanted to talk about, this kind of goes into our TILs a little bit. I don't know if you're ready for that, Jordan. Do you have anything else
I
before we get into that?
I don't. Let me scroll through. You can even do a TIL. I'll scroll through. I
Okay.
only have one TIL. So
Okay, so let me get in my TIL because it's kind of a long one that I wanted to throw out there for you guys. I was reading a really, really cool article about rabies, um, because there was a really
like you
good
should,
research,
like you
like
should.
naturally, as one should. Um, and it was a new study that had come out as far as like concerning signs and symptoms that you should be looking out for, and if you see this symptom, you should maybe have the consideration of screening this person for rabies. But first, I want to give some facts to y'all real quick about rabies. So, rabies, the mortality rate is actually really high with rabies. An unvaccinated person is expected to live usually at tops about 7 days after the appearance of symptoms. But if you give the vaccine as soon as you start exhibiting symptoms, it's easily curable. It's estimated that there's about 55,000 deaths per year worldwide from rabies. Okay, so 55,000 worldwide from rabies.
I'm
What are
not.
you laughing about?
I'm laughing about something. I'm gonna show you, and it's gonna be so good.
Okay,
It's rabies
okay,
is
good.
not funny, guys. We should.
Okay,
We should actually should
so
go to the Michael Scott run to end rabies.
yeah, yes. Oh my god. Okay, but guys, it's getting good. Okay, this is getting good for rabies. Listen, there's about 56% of the deaths of that 55,000. So a little bit, around 27,000 or whatever of those deaths occur in Asia every year.
Okay.
44% of those are in Africa, more so like in the rural areas. Um, and almost all of those patients die due to misdiagnosis. A large majority of them do. Um, but today I learned that often from this research study, they found that rabies often causes in humans involuntary erections, and yeah, and and multiple orgasms, as many as 30 to 50 a day in the
What?
final phases before death.
Before
Yes,
death.
before death. So like when you're getting to those final stages, they found a consistent theme.
This is where I will step in and say, who figured that out?
Well, so on this article,
Because
they had a case study of individuals from, it was mostly from Asia, and maybe Asians are I don't know. A little more repressed. I don't know. I don't know. That's terrible. That's terrible. I'm
Yeah,
terrible.
you're such a
Um,
racist. Like,
terrible.
so
But they
they die
found that this
happy,
is
Amador
if
says.
somebody starts, yeah, yeah, that's right. But if you, from a clinician standpoint and a diagnostic standpoint, if you get somebody coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'm having like I don't know why I'm having these erections and orgasms. I don't know what's happening, but I did get bit by a dog 3 weeks ago."
I had 30 on my way into your office.
I had 30, but somebody got bit by a
Clearly,
dog
I'm
recently.
almost dead.
Um, you might think to yourself, I should check somebody for rabies. But a good, on a positive note, as far as for United States citizens,
Right.
rabies is actually extremely rare in the United
That's
States,
good.
like extremely rare.
That's good.
Annually in the entire United States, there's usually only between 1 to 3 cases reported annually. 1 to 3 out of 400 million people, about, and 25 cases of human rabies have been reported in the past decade.
So, like,
So,
almost up there with COVID.
like, like
Super
almost as
close.
close, almost as many as like the actual reported fraudulent activities with the election.
Yeah.
Almost about, yeah.
2000.
Okay,
So here's what
so
so I can show you.
you got
I
TIL.
totally forgot I was going to show you this. You're going to love this. So these are actual pictures. They're not. I did not take them. Just to be super clear, they were posted on Representative David Trone's Twitter page, and he said, and before I show these, he said, "I am safe. We have been evacuated. Let me be clear. We will not be stopped by this lawless intimidation." Are you ready, folks? Are you ready?
Is it
You ready
time
for the
to
picture he posted? It's a selfie he posted from the house on the 6th.
get it? What is he wearing?
I don't know. People are like, "What is going on?" Look at him walking down the hallway.
What? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know
Some type
either.
of it's like for a chemical attack or something.
I guess.
They must like make when they go into lockdown, like prepare for all
He's got
hazards.
like a whole suit on, and these people just have, or maybe it's just his coat.
Here, no, that's a raincoat, dude.
Yeah.
That's super weird. I don't
Look
know.
at him in this one, and
Um,
see the guy behind him.
he looks like the guy behind him is about to die.
Anyway,
That's super funky. I don't know. People got spacesuits on in the Capitol.
we will not be
Um,
intimidated. Oh, but the best part is the memes that people are putting up.
oh, I bet there's
Look at
ones
this.
for that.
This is the yeah. There's
Oh, the Bubble Boy. Yes.
yep.
I can't believe that guy. Was that? Is that Jake
This one.
Gyllenhaal? Oh my gosh.
This one.
So funny. Oh, that's terrifying.
Then Ricky Gervais. Oh, the
Okay, hit me with your TIL.
yeah.
Hit me with your TIL.
This could go on forever.
Yeah.
He's wear a spacesuit. Okay. Today I learned if you grind a marine sponge through a sieve into salt water, it'll reorganize itself back into a sponge. It's the only animal that we know of
What?
that can do that.
What? Whoa. Is that real? That's wild.
Yeah, I learned it
It's
today.
amazing. Right on, man. All right, my first shower thought. This happens to me frequently
Oh no,
with my kiddos.
rabies.
It's nothing that crazy, but having a toddler is a great way to discover the extraordinary range of things that can be done to your iPhone without it being unlocked.
I've had people bring iPhones to me and like it's locked out and it says it's 100 and some odd hours or something.
Right.
Like,
The amount of like photos
what,
they take
what
or
was
like
your
things they start
why did you
playing
take
and
the
like
most expensive thing you probably own, like that's that size, and give it to your child to chew on?
yeah,
Like
it's wild.
I never give my phone to kids. I'm always amazed when
Well, it's
parents
also
do.
the most like dirty thing they actually can chew on.
It's true.
On a bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see.
Me.
Your next
Yeah.
turn. Shower thought. Hit me.
International Space Station takes the smartest people on the planet and turns them into maintenance workers.
So true. That's so funny. Like the most like high tech maintenance workers, I guess. Maybe not high tech. I guess it has to be kind of low
They
tech.
have to withstand like getting there.
True.
Because she
Okay.
loves it. Your wife. You're going to have to buy a new phone soon.
She does love it. You're right, babe. Lisa confirms. She says yes, they were for chemical.
I'm
and
sure
gas
they were.
attacks.
It still looks hilarious.
As an adult, there's nothing more terrifying than the sound of water where there shouldn't be.
Super true.
In my house, if I hear the sound of water and I don't know where it's coming from, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Especially in a 2-story house.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, too soon? Too soon? Like
Too soon. Oh my god, this summer. Oh, broke my heart.
uh um it's interesting how quickly too drunk to cook a frozen pizza can become sober enough to fight a fire.
That's good. I like that. It's true. Babies are the only thing that come out of another person's body that people want to hold.
I'm trying to prove you wrong, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I couldn't think of one. I tried to think of it. I mean, nobody wants to touch your earwax. Nobody wants to touch your boogers. Nobody wants
Yeah,
to touch your mucus. No one wants to touch your feces. No one wants to touch your urine. Nobody wants to touch your reproductive juices. Nobody wants to touch your eye boogers.
true.
I don't think anything.
Unless you're an organ donor, then they want it.
But they don't want to touch it.
Technically, they're touching it.
They want to absorb it.
It's like, you can't use my heart if you're not
Yeah.
touching it. Whenever you
Hit me.
eat canned pieces of fruit, you are more than likely sharing one whole fruit with someone hundreds of miles away.
That's true. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Yeah, this is kind of fun. Yeah.
I guess like, I
Okay.
would follow it up with you probably should just say like cheers every time just to be polite.
Yeah, that'd be cool if you're lonely.
Yeah.
So this one might be hard for people to get, but the I am not a robot tests. What are those called? Cash or what are
CAPTCHA.
those tests called? What's it? CAPTCHA?
Yeah, well, there's different ones, but yeah, CAPTCHA is
Okay.
one of them.
So those I'm not a robot CAPTCHA tests
Hmm.
are actually probably doing the most for training people to be better drivers than anything else.
I like to like pay attention.
Like because like identify where's the stoplights, where's the
Yeah.
crosswalks,
Well,
where's the buses.
here's a question. In those, it's like when it
Yeah.
says like there's a crosswalk, where are the crosswalks? Do you pick the
Uh-huh.
box that just has like a little bitty, teeny amounts
Oh,
of
I
white,
used to. I don't do that anymore
and it
though,
still
because I
works?
always would fail. I would always fail
I
them.
always
I would
solve
always
them.
fail
I
them.
always don't.
I
I
hated
don't
those
fail them
tests,
when I do
dude.
that. Like I don't, or like when
Oh,
they say
really?
like the stoplights. Do you just pick the lights, or do you pick the bar and the bar all the way down?
No, no, no. I just picked the lights because I've gotten furious with those things, and I've decided I don't even know if it's the picture that it cares about those CAPTCHA things,
Hmm.
or if it's just the way your mouse goes
I
and
think
clicks
it's the
on
way
them.
your mouse moves. Because like the
Right.
ones that are just a checkbox, that's what it's doing. It's checking the size of
Yeah.
your browser, how you move the
Yeah.
mouse and everything. Because it's nearly
Yeah.
impossible for a robot to be as anonymous and as
Yeah.
erratic as a human being. We are
Okay.
super
Hit me with
erratic.
the next one.
Okay.
I got one more.
Okay. So I have two more. So that works out.
Perfect.
It's amazing humans ever survived out in the wild with babies being as noisy as they are.
Hmm. Good point. Good point. And they had to keep them away when they were hunting, for sure.
True.
Okay, my last one. Okay. I don't feel like enough people appreciate the fact that our lips are watertight. Like, can you imagine how miserable that would be
Or our
if,
butts.
or well, the butts, the sphincter. I brought that. That was a shower thought last week, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was just between the gas, the liquid, and the
Yeah,
solid.
holding multiple forms of matter. Yeah,
Yeah.
lip watertight would be a messy situation if your lips weren't.
They're not, but sometimes they're kind of weak. Like if you laugh and you have a drink of water in your mouth, and all of a sudden it creates a very big problem.
True. The
Yeah.
will. Okay, hit me.
Last one. Crickets are pretty damn loud to be the symbol of silence.
I didn't know they were the symbol of silence.
It's like, what do you hear? Crickets.
Oh, true. I gotcha. Only thing you can hear is crickets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. We had a lot of interesting topics and a lot of really good comments. We appreciate you guys kind of giving your input on this crazy stuff. And we hope you have a fantastic week and find some peace and some rest amongst the craziness in this world and find someone. Oh, and I'm going to end tonight with a quote.
Ooh.
I'm going to end tonight with a quote. I don't know anybody out there that enjoys Star Trek as much as I do. There's probably not
There's
many
nobody.
out there.
Just there's
Oh,
nobody.
come on.
Nobody.
There's definitely somebody. Um, but a great quote that I heard or I read at the end of the last episode of Star Trek Discovery. There's a man who created the original Star Trek and then Star Trek Next Generation with Picard. Um, and his name is Gene Roddenberry or Roddenberry. He was the creator of Star Trek.
Hackman?
This quote is a perfect thing for our nation right now. He says, "In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just two people, we are indeed very fortunate." That being said, obviously it's great to have even more two people in your life that you could truly communicate with.
Yeah, don't
But
limit it. Don't limit yourself.
don't limit it. But if you can truly have an open, honest, safe discord with somebody, especially maybe even somebody that doesn't share the same beliefs or values as you, it will greatly enhance your life and the lives of those around you, I believe. So that's
It's
my
like if you went and read Curtis and I's text conversations. It's
yes,
great.
exactly. Jordan and I have many of those conversations, and it's really good for us.
But
So,
it's like
all
last
right,
night I was
guys.
just like, I disagree. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, Jordan's like, I don't agree
It's
at all.
like,
I'm like, cool.
okay, okay. What
Yeah,
can you
all
do?
right. What can you do? All right, guys.
Not a lot.
Well, have a fantastic week. Thanks for logging on,
Yeah, thanks for
and
joining
we'll
us.
talk
Sorry we went a little bit
to
long,
you
but
later and
that's
soon.
it's fun. I'll see you guys
Peace.
later. Wait.
Peace.
Follow us on YouTube. Also, I didn't
Yeah,
tell
like
Curtis
us on
this yet. Yeah,
Facebook.
like us on Facebook and share the post. I tagged some people. Um, but also I'm gonna be putting our stuff up on Rumble too, because some of our stuff might be breaking YouTube's policies, and so someone else has built something else. So look for
Right
us on
on.
there if you're on Rumble. If you haven't heard of it,
Rumble it up.
you should go look because I bet a lot of the shows you watch are on there.
Nice.
Anyway, and there's less
Cool.
ads. So see you guys later.
Right on. Peace
Peace out.
out.